Watchmen Chapter 8 documentary by Bennett McNichol and Walker Phillips. The plot summary of Chapter 8 starts with Hollis Mason calling Sally Jupiter on the morning of Halloween, and they reminisce about the old days over the phone. Dan and Lori need to rescue Rorschach before they get arrested for being vigilantes, and they have to prepare Archie for takeoff. And while they do that, the plot goes between tertiary characters. Seymour and Mr. Godfrey are working on the latest edition of the New Frontiersman. Max and Hira look forward to leaving the unnamed island where they are working, and Hollis overhears a news brief about the New Frontiersman, which supports vigilantes. At the prison, Rorschach is being harassed by the big figure and his cronies who want him dead, but he is able to deal with them both when Lori and Dan arrive. Rorschach kills the big figure and leaves. The trio goes back to Dan's house to grab a few things. Lori is worried about the jailbreak and the impending global war and finds Dr. Manhattan. She and Dr. Manhattan teleport out of the house. Dan and Rorschach use an old subway tunnel to make a quick getaway in Archie. Meanwhile, the top knots at the newsstand listen to a radio report about Rorschach's escape. They've heard some old owl character did it, and one of the guys says his dad knows Night Owl, who lives over some garage near here. They go to the Night Owl's house, kill him, and he is found moments later by trick-or-treaters. Old ghosts are found throughout the chapter in the text and the art and graffiti of the chapter, and that is also the title name. The themes are fate, time, flawed heroes, and being locked into the morality of being a normal human being and not just a superhero. Symbols and motifs include nostalgia perfume, old ghosts throughout the chapter, and how Halloween makes superheroes feel normal. Chapter 8 is called Old Ghosts because the chapter revolves around the superheroes who are overlooked by the Watchmen Society, like the Night Owl, and who are even disliked by the kids and population of the Watchmen throughout the chapter, and how the old superheroes literally turn into ghosts as the Night Owl dies. The first topic we're going to talk about in the documentary is nostalgia. Nostalgia starts in this graphic novel with the statue of the Night Owl. This was back when he was with the Minutemen, and back when he was actually appreciated by his society. The statue is all shining in armor. Near the end of the chapter, the Night Owl was attacked by a gang of people who were angry because the Night Owl was believed to have set Rorschach free from prison. But he thinks about how he would have handled this back in his prime fighting days, and how the Night Owl from the Minutemen would not be stopped by this gang of people. But when he is fighting this gang of people, he is outnumbered and overwhelmed, and he is kicked over and killed. And when he is killed, there's blood splattered on his statue, and the blood splatter represents how he is beaten up and how his statue takes damage over time. The second nostalgic element in Chapter 8 is when Hollis and Sally are on the phone, and next to Sally there is a bottle of nostalgia perfume. The perfume is made to remind people of a better time in the good old days when people appreciated superheroes and had a better life. Nostalgia perfume also appears when Dr. Manhattan meets Sally and they are about to go to Mars. They have not seen Dr. Manhattan in a long time, and it is almost nostalgic when they see him for the first time, which is why the perfume is there. The last element of nostalgia in Chapter 8 is this big nostalgia sign referencing the old ghosts above it. This looks like a war color scheme because of all the different shades of green, and it's nostalgia because this reminds people of like the Vietnam War, this green color scheme. And this is right before the Night Owl gets jumped, and it's representing a lot of chaos, and there's a lot of chaos in the war, so it just created a lot of panic.
One of the biggest themes in Chapter 8 is liberation. It appears about 3 times throughout the chapter. It can first be seen when Dan and Lori break free from their self-imposed shackles, then again when they help Rorschach escape from prison, and lastly when Night Owl is beaten to death. After the Keene Act of 1977, Dan and Lori decide to hide their identities as superheroes. They have to act like someone they're not, hence the self-imposed shackles. Although, in this chapter, they decide to go and help Rorschach out of prison. This liberates them from their fake identities, and it helps them become who they are supposed to be, because they are at their best when helping people. The second time liberation is seen in this chapter is when Rorschach escapes from prison. This is when the theme is more obvious, because he is liberated from being trapped in his cell in prison. Rorschach's escape from prison is the first step to the final acts of the Watchmen. While the plan is going through to get Rorschach out of prison, the size of the panels play a role that is often glanced over. During this scene, the graphic novel jumps back and forth between two scenes. As seen here, the first 6 panels are about Hector Godfrey trying to get his article pasted in time for the printing deadline. These panels stick to the traditional 3 panels per row. Then it switches scenes to Dan and Laurie getting ready to head to the prison. This takes place in one big panel expressing the importance of the scene. And for the next few pages, it continues switching off between the scenes while keeping the same format. Lastly, the scene of liberation can be seen when the original Night Owl is killed at the end of the chapter. Hollis Mason has been living the boring, normal life since the Keene Act was passed, and he no longer lives the life of a superhero. The killers, in a way, liberate Hollis from his mortal coil because he wasn't living the life he wanted anymore. The world is also liberated from him in a way.
The next allusion in Chapter 8 is the references towards Halloween. The main Halloween references is the costumes of these 3 kids, the devil, the ghost, and the pirate. The pirate and the ghost are more significant than the devil because the ghost relates to the title, The Old Ghosts, and the pirate relates to the miniature references to the pirate story in our graphic novel throughout this chapter. A minor allusion to Halloween is when Dan and Laurie are talking about how long they have before they are going to get attacked for being vigilantes. It is a minor reference because they talk about skeletons jumping out of the closet, and on the floor there are their different costumes for their superhero outfits. Another allusion is the New Frontiersman, which is the newspaper that is worked on throughout the chapter. The New Frontiersman is a editorial piece on how the superheroes should not be receiving as much criticism as they do, as they're just trying to keep the American society fresh. They're just trying to prevent the society from being heavily mongrelized. And it's an allusion because it references the Ku Klux Klan and how the New Frontiersman attempts to defend them because they were trying to preserve American culture. But not everybody agrees with this editorial, and this also is what leads to getting the Night Owl killed.